Great day, everyone. Great day, everyone. How y'all doing today? I want to welcome you to the Overnight Success Podcast. I'm your host, once again, Diamond McNulty, the founder and CEO of McNulty International, creator of the Success Club, author of How to Become a Successful Young Man, Woman, Success Recovery, and 12 Things Entrepreneurs Should Pray For. But today, we have a special guest. As you know, the Overnight Success Podcast is focused on one thing. It's focused on empowering high schoolers and college students to focus on success. We want to share stories, testimonies of those that have already taken this trajectory, that have already achieved great things in life, so that you can see what roadmaps and how to map out your success plan in life. So today, we have an educator, a mother, a pillar in the community, a future author, right? So I want to welcome her to the stage. Come on in, Lucy Ross. Come on in, come on in.
Hello,
Lucy.
everyone. How you doing tonight, Diamond?
I'm outstanding. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for
That's what
having
I'm.
me.
Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited because it's not often that you get a chance to hear educators come on and actually tell you how to succeed. You're right there with the kids.
Yes, man, there's some stories besides the ones you hear on the news. But yeah,
Right, right.
it's really good to be on here and actually like share, the journey in education and just
Mhm,
like where do you start and then like
mhm.
just how to get from one point to another. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's the thing. So as you mentioned, it is a journey, right? So
Mhm.
before we even get into, your current state, right? Because
Mhm.
it's been a process. I want to take it back to the beginning where, born and raised, give a little bit of insight on your upbringing, right? Family dynamics, household, location, where you were born and raised.
Sure. Okay. So I'm originally from Chicago. I mean,
Mhm.
most people who live in the suburbs of Chicago, we just claim Chicago, even if you live in the
Yeah, it's right
suburbs.
there.
So, yeah, I'm from the south suburbs. I grew up in like Glenwood, Illinois. I
Hmm.
am the middle child. I have a brother and a younger sister. And
Mm.
yeah, grew up with both my parents, attended private schools in high school, and went to Monmouth College, which was
Wow.
like Southern Illinois a little bit. But yeah, growing up,
Wow.
just I just remember just now just being in the classroom compared to like when I was younger, things are just so much different. I just remember just being, I don't want to say that students now aren't happy, but just like having
Hmm.
that old school fun,
Yeah.
playing outside with your
Yeah.
friends, visiting family members, like having so many events, just life was just great,
It was. I was just talking about that. Like, why we were outside.
Yes.
Everything was outside. I don't
Hmm.
even remember being inside. I remember video games was probably secondary. It's like I do that later in life.
Yes. Hmm.
Man, man. So when you think about those early years, even in elementary school, like in
Hmm.
high school, talk a little bit about that. How was your journey throughout those years?
Well, in high school, I actually attended an all girls school, Seton Academy,
Mm,
for like the first 2 years of high school. And it was a really good experience. I was into sports. I played
mm,
volleyball, I played basketball. And being in the private school, I had the opportunity to like really focus on academics, and just
mm.
become like my best self, so to speak, not to sound cliche, but
Yeah.
towards my junior year, I had actually went into co-ed high school, Thornridge, and
Mm,
I felt myself kind of like take a turn, just being an adolescent, just the things that you kind of value,
mm-hmm.
a teenage girl, boys, and you being like a little bit more self-conscious about like yourself compared to like other
Mm,
girls. So I
yeah.
noticed, that where I was when I started high school, my environment kind of shifted based upon like
Mm,
the new dynamics of where I was. So, in all,
yes.
I would say my high school experience was pretty good, but I would say when I was really able to focus on myself as a person and then like my where I wanted to be, it was easier for
Mhm.
me.
That's great. So, and then the private versus public school
Hmm.
dynamics, right?
Hmm.
So, how was that? Because you said you were in private school,
Yep.
right? What were some
Hmm.
of the benefits? that you would say, private
So
versus public? Of course,
I,
it's
I would,
always community.
yeah. So I would say first and foremost is the ratio, student teacher
Mm,
ratio. So in the classroom, when I was in the private school, it was about maybe 14 girls in the classroom. So it
mm,
was really small, and it was very like more intimate of a setting. If you had questions, it was the teacher was there readily available to spend a lot of time with you to like kind of walk you through, as opposed to being in just a regular public high school where you have like
yeah,
30 kids in the classroom,
yeah,
and not to mention you may be a little bit shyer to ask a question because you don't want
yeah,
all eyes to be on you. So
right.
I feel like it was a little bit more student centered in the private
Wow.
school. Hmm.
Wow. So when that is something, and it makes you think too, So
Yeah.
there you have it. When it comes to even being at that age, what were some of the passions of yours in high school?
Well, I love sports. I love playing volleyball. And at first, like I was a little bit like shaky, like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really have any experience in sports like at all. But like once I like played on a team and just like got to meet like other girls on the team and just play games and actually had the opportunity to be competitive, it just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like fueled the fire to just have an interest in sports. And then
Yeah.
also like just as a teenager, just making money. I remember just getting my first job at the age of 14. So
Mm.
I remember like changing my, student ID so I can have my first job at Arby's, just so that I, keep up with the latest style. So just, being independent, having my own
Mm.
things, and then like playing sports. So,
Mm. Now that's good.
mhm.
And you said you had your first job at 14.
At 14. Yes.
Ah.
I know like you get a permit at 15, but I was just so determined to like work. I had older cousins that I used to always follow behind and they were working, and I just kind of like saw like, man, this is what it's like to like work and buy your own stuff without asking anyone for it. Like it really motivated me to like just like, okay, I'm going to do it too, like you need an application. Let me fill it out. So, yeah.
Wow. I know your parents was like, okay, go right ahead.
Definitely.
Go right
Definitely. And
ahead.
it was three of us too. So yeah,
Hmm. Take
they
that off our
appreciated the
plate.
hustle. Hmm.
So at that time in your life, were there any mentors or anyone that inspired you uh, on your journey?
I would definitely say like first and foremost, like my parents, always
Hmm.
sticking values to us, making sure that we do the right thing. Just they always wanted better for us than what they had. And then just my older cousins. I had one cousin especially Candace, she was just always someone I looked up to, even today. She's just always been like a really good role model for me. And
Hmm.
in a sense that she kind of like led the pathway to like, okay, this is what
Hmm.
it's like when you're older. These are the things that you can do. If you're smart, you don't have to take the hard way. You can do it this way. So I would
Yes.
say just at that age, just family members and then like, yeah, people who are closer to me.
Wow. And that's
Mhm.
important to have those that have already went before you that you can just watch and
Yeah.
pay attention to and say, okay, I know how to
Hmm.
navigate that. You really need that in life. You need role models.
Yeah, and you're thinking about like I grew up well as a teenager in the early 2000s. So at that time was a little bit different than what it is now. Like family was
Hmm.
really big, so a lot of times like that's who we leaned on was family members,
Right.
or it wasn't like today where the family dynamics are more small, and you have like more youth programs and stuff, and a lot of teens are looking forward to like other adults that are outside of the home to like
Yeah.
be mentees or to be mentored. But I
Hmm.
would say back in the day, like I'm that old, but yeah, when I grew up, it was just more of the family, aspect of people who you would look up to, at least in my
Yeah.
experience.
Same for me. I love my
Hmm.
family was right there, and that I think that molds you, right? That really helps you. Was
Yeah.
there is there any advice right now that you would give, whether it's a high schooler, right? On
Hmm.
in their journey on how to navigate that and overcome any obstacles that they're going through.
Um, I would just definitely say just take every day slow, take every day one at a time.
Mm.
And I would first say have some grace for yourself. Like making mistakes and failing is like the first recipe that I would put in the whole concoction of success, because without those mistakes, without the failure, you can't learn and you
Yeah.
don't have anything to compare success to. So I would
Mm-hmm.
definitely say have some grace for yourself, hang in there and keep going, and use the mistakes that you have made to help guide you and inform you in the future.
Wow.
Hmm.
Nah, that's what I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
take that time. Were the At that age, were there any additional influences, right? Like your friend circle. Did you rely on your network of friends because you went from one school to another school? How did that transition work out?
Well, when I was in high school, my friends, I didn't really lean on them too much. I think like we kind of all just got into, trouble together. But I think when I got serious about like the things that I wanted to do, then I think that my group
Mm,
of friends started to change too. And
yeah.
I was surrounded more by people who were a little bit serious as well.
Yeah.
So,
Got it. That's good.
mhm.
You were the change. You like, hey, we got to get on track. We got to get
Mhm.
focused. We got someone somewhere to be in life. No, that's great.
Mhm.
And then here you are. You're exiting high school, right? And
Mhm.
you're heading to college. What was that decision, right? Where you wanted to go and what you were going to pursue?
So that's a good question. I had actually applied to maybe four HBCUs,
Okay.
Clark Atlanta. I know some other ones, Howard. And my mom, she was basically saying, well, you go out of state, you have to get all those out of state fees and it can get pretty expensive. And I had an older
Hmm.
brother, he was already going to University of Illinois. So that was already going to be two kids in college. So my aunt, she actually had a friend who attended Monmouth College, which was about 3 hours away from the city, Chicago. And I went down to the campus and I checked it out. It was small, and like I said, I thought back to the days where I was in a small environment in that private school, because it was a private college,
Yeah.
and I was just convinced that that was just the place that that I should think about going. So, and then it was close, and that's how I made that decision.
Right. And then in that college, did they have any particular majors that you were like, okay, this is what I want to pursue here? Or you said, this is the college I'm going to, I'll find out something when I get
Yeah,
there.
it was kind of like, I feel like when you, and I even think about my students today, like that I have in the classroom, when I ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They name
Hmm.
careers in which they don't know really too much about. Like one of my
Yeah.
students has said, she's 8 years old, give you a little background, that she wanted to be a financer. And I said, a financer? And I was like, do you know what that means? He said, no. And to that lens, I think we pick careers that we've heard before or things that we think
Hmm.
sound good, especially if you go to college. So
Yeah.
when I thought about a career that I wanted to take up when I went to college, I originally did like science. So I was a chemistry major and I wanted to
Hmm.
be a pharmacist. So I was just thinking of things that would get, a nice income when you graduate, put you on a good path. However, I didn't have any interest in science, and
Yeah.
it was nothing that I really was really good at. Math, I
Yeah.
wasn't the best at it. So it was just something that I just thought that I should be doing. So,
Wow. And that's good to know too, because like you said, there's some students right now and they're like, I don't know what I want to be. I don't
hmm,
know where I'm going, but I know I'm going somewhere.
yeah.
Hello, my name is Diamond McNulty, and I want to welcome you to the McNulty International Success Club, where we help youth and adults create their personal success plans to achieve their dreams in life. Visit McNultyInternational.com today and register. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of y'all inside the
Yeah.
boardroom. Now,
And
so
that's okay too, just put in the steps forward to just attend college, and just like
mhm,
I said, like trial and error, failing,
mhm,
like making mistakes, that's going to put you on the path where you need to go, because without
mm,
that, how would you know?
mhm. And here you are, new in college, right?
Hmm.
Small, you're away from family now. How far away? Not too
About
far,
3 hours.
maybe.
Yep, mom is
Okay.
about 3 hours.
Okay, so you're 3 hours away and you stayed on the dorm. So you were on campus.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay, so how was that your first time entering college? And what kept you motivated throughout that journey?
Well, growing up, my parents, they were, I don't want to say they weren't very strict, but they were, they were on me. And
Okay.
when I went into college, like my first experience, I'm like, wow, freedom. I get to go out and hang out with my friends and I don't have to tell anybody where I'm going, or I don't have to ask anyone if it's okay. So
Hmm.
it was just like, man, it was like amazing, like so much to do, so much freedom. And I would say, like, with all of that, the experience was very overwhelming. It was like fun. Like, it was just all the feelings that you can experience being out on your own for the very first time. And I think with that, I just kind of had to just think about, like, when I got all of that out my system, like, okay, how do I navigate being an adult? What are the things that I should be like putting on my priority list? Like, managing money, managing my time well. Do I want to go out and hang with friends, or do I want to study for this chemistry test? So just being able to move to the next step in terms of being an adult or being independent, and then learning how to navigate all the new things that were foreign to me and doing well with those things. So
Wow. And finding someone to lean on in that time, like you said, it's so much in your hand now, and you got to figure this out.
yeah, and back in the day, there
Wow.
was no Zelle, there was no Cash App, or so when someone had to send you money, you had to wait for it to come in the mail, or you had to get a Western Union. So if you spend all your money on something, and you just had to just sit there, and just wait for some more to come. So a lot of decisions were, well, you had to make a lot of important decisions.
Right. Were you able to even have a job while you were out there? Because as you said, you were working now, so you're used to making money.
Yeah,
But now
so
you're
my first year in college, I wasn't, but the second year, like, books were getting expensive. It was me and my brother in college, so times it was financially a little bit rough for my parents. So I was able to get a job on campus and be like a caterer. So I did catering and I also worked at the coffee shop, but it didn't bring in much money. So like I said, I just had to just do the best I can with the little means that I had.
mm. And here you are. Now, were there some teachers or someone that you gravitated to being new, or even throughout your journey while you were in college that took a hold of you and showed you some new things?
So the college that I went to, it was in Southern Illinois, and it was predominantly, well, I would just say the percentage of students of color was about 3%. So it was a
Mhm.
really small percentage. And to that note, most of the professors, most of the staff at the school were not,
Yeah.
faculty of color. And
Mhm.
I think one mentor that I had was a student club called the Coalition of Ethnic Awareness, which I eventually became president of. And his name was Kim Morris, and he had actually went to Monmouth. And at that time, he was dean of students, and he kind of like took like all the, the students of color under his wing, and we kind of like just met, and we just leaned on each other during that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, he gave you a voice at that in that time, right?
Yeah. And we were actually able to make a few things happen. I know they didn't have any black fraternities or sororities. So we had actually went to a neighboring college, Bradley University, and we attempted to bring in a sorority, AKAs, at our school. However, they
Oh,
didn't
wow.
let us do it because of some type of regulation. But it was just really important to have someone like help us to hear our voice in order for us to bring that there, because a lot of the things that other schools had, like the HBCUs that I wanted to attend, we didn't have that at Monmouth. So we kind of just felt like
Mhm.
we were all on an island,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
having that mentor there and giving
yeah.
us a voice made us feel like we were closer to getting some of the things that we wanted. So that felt great.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, at least I know I'm not alone. Now, when I was in college, the same thing happened to me because when I was in high school, I had a
Mhm.
teacher, Mr. Muhammad, and every day he would give us a Black History fact.
Oh, wow.
So I had binders. I'm talking about booklets of Black History facts. So I'm in college, and I'm full of
Mhm.
all this information.
Mhm.
So here I am trying to do the same thing in college. He was like, "Mm-mm,
Yeah.
not here."
And then he would show us, like pictures of things that they did when they were at Monmouth a long time ago. And like, you guys can do this too, carry on the legacy, and it was just really made us proud. Like we had got us our own CEA house. That was the name of the organization. And, like we were able to like do different types of fundraisers. And it just really made us feel like we were a part of something. So it was a really good experience.
So now you got to figure out, okay, now I got to make a career choice.
Yes.
How did you finally nail down the decision?
So it came to a point where the high school that I went to, when I went to a private school, I would say that it was fairly good in preparing me for the things that I really needed to know in college when it came to math and science. But when I transferred into the public school, I didn't have some of the courses that a lot of my peers had in college, and they were more than prepared when we took calculus and some of the advanced chemistry classes. So to that point, when I was in the math and the science classes, I really struggled. And I struggled because I didn't have the foundation that I needed to prepare me for college. So here I am sitting in these classes, and some of them I had to take more than once. And I was getting like C averages, and it just wasn't good enough. And especially it wasn't good enough to go into pharmacy school, which you would go to like a normal college for about 2 years and then you would transfer over, but you had to have a certain GPA. So here I am taking these classes, some of them over again with only a C average. And I had met with one of my chemistry teachers, and she had told me, she said, you're doing good, but not good enough to major in pharmacy. So at that, I thought she was kind of saving me, like, oh, thank you for, giving me that advice so I can kind of like give up on this and do something else. But now looking back, I kind of wish that I had someone to keep me going, because if that was something that I really wanted to do, or even if I was exposed to like maybe getting an internship and really got to see like what it was like to be a pharmacist, then that could have motivated me to stick with it. But because I didn't have anyone there to like show me that way, or just be someone just to have someone to talk to, it kind of discouraged me from the major. So I actually got out of the major of chemistry and entered into public relations.
Oh, wow.
So that's that story.
Right. So that's okay. Sometimes you got to pivot, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, that individual, right? That person that you're looking to, they could either encourage you to keep going, but they may see something inside of you that may be a little bit different that you don't see. So who knows? The beautiful thing about it, that you're here right now, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like, just looking back at it, I kind of am glad that I kind of got discouraged out of the major, because I couldn't imagine myself in any other field than education. So it worked out.
Wow. So here you are. Now you're in a sweet spot where you're like, okay, well, I like this. I love this. I can do this.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you move that forward? Because here you are getting ready to graduate and go into the workforce or your career field.
Yeah, so public relations, as you know, that field is so broad. There's so many things that you can do with a public relations degree. And I didn't really even know too much about the major. I'm just knowing that, okay, you can get something with it. So as I graduated, I know my first job out of college, I worked in a daycare as an office manager, which you didn't even need a bachelor's degree in public relations to get that job. But I had my first daughter, and I was in the same like town. I was in the Quad Cities, and it was just really hard to find a job, and a job that paid well too. And either I was too overqualified, or I didn't have enough like experience to do anything in the public relations field. So I just kind of just stuck at the daycare as an office manager, and it kind of worked out because I needed daycare for my daughter because I had to work. And I had a friend who we went to college together, a really good friend, and she had moved back to Chicago, and she was also a science major. She had majored in pre-med, and she also had some of the similar experiences that I had, because her high school did not prepare her as well either. And when she got to Chicago, she still had a hard time, like, finding a job. and she was going through some of the similar experiences with not having someone to help support her. So she had joined a program, and it was called AUSL, Academy of Urban School Leadership. And through that program, they gave you a master's degree where you were able to learn how to become a teacher and get your master's at the same time. So she did the program for a year, and then she told me about it. And I was like, I'm working at this daycare and I'm surrounded by kids, and my experience growing up, like I just always had a love for reading when I grew up. Like it was just something that I just loved to do. My mom, she would always read to us and take us to the library. It was just kind of like a treat. So when I enter into this daycare and I'm seeing all these things, it was just like nostalgia to me. Like all these things just came back and reignited, these feelings that I had for just being in the classroom. So I was like, let me try out this program. So I'm in the Quad Cities and I applied for it and I got in. So here I am living in the Quad Cities, and I got an acceptance letter to be in this master's program in Chicago. So,
wow.
Yeah.
You see how those steps get ordered?
Yep. So I'm like, I had no intentions of being a teacher, but I was just put into an environment, into a situation where it kind of like sparked my interest, or something that was familiar, something I always loved. And then it just ordered my next steps. So
wow. And then, like you said, it got you a master's degree. You were
yeah.
Now a lot of people get their master's degree.
Yeah.
Right. Some people have been in their careers for 20 plus years and they realize this is not me. Now that's what you were like, wow.
Yeah, I really think it's important, because it's like you have students who are only 17, 18 years old entering college, and you're asking them to make a decision about what major they want to major in for the rest of their life. And that's not fair, because they don't really even know who they are. So with that being said, it's okay if you decide to change fields or change majors later on down the line.
Or join the Success Club, right?
Yeah, it's
That's
okay.
what we do. We help them create their personal success plans ahead of time. And so here you are you're getting your master's degree, you're headed into education, right? What were some of the first couple of opportunities that came your way right after you got your master's?
So with the program, you're supposed to be placed in, it's called like a turnaround school. So a turnaround school is an underperforming school here. Well, it was in the city of Chicago, and they would place teacher residents into those schools, and they basically trained you while you were getting your master's for that 1 year to be put into these schools to, get prepared to teach students there and, increase the student scores. So with that, during that year, I know we had got a new mayor, and there was no turnaround schools that got open. So we had all these residents who got put into this program, and the city decided to not open up any turnaround schools. So we had to basically find our own jobs. And I looked in, CPS, and it was just really hard to find a job. So here I was again looking for a job, but I did ultimately end up in a charter school. So that's where I think did most of my career, about 12 years there.
At that time, what were the emotions that you were going through, right? Because some people operate in fear, right? Some people are challenged and will be challenged in that type of, all of the things that you could be going through, the emotional.
Yeah, I just remember like some of my friends, I don't want to say it was like a competition, but I felt like I was behind. I always felt like I was behind, and I felt like my friends, they were getting jobs, like, oh, this principal called me, I got a job, I'm about to go to the interview. And I'm just looking like at my phone, like I haven't gotten one call yet. So I would just feel like I was just always behind. And I was also remember just feeling like giving up, like maybe I made a bad decision. Should I just go back to, the town in which I just came and just work there? At least I'll have a job. But one day, I know I had filled out for that charter school, and the principal, she was like, come on in for an interview. So I went in, and like mind you, I only prepared for being a teacher for 1 year, so I really didn't have any experience in classroom. And like when they interviewed me, it was really intense. And I remember like messing up on like a lot of the interview questions and just sitting there. And I just like kind of like blanked out. But she was like, you know what? It's okay. She was like, you knew, we just gonna give it a try. And she was like, I'm new. I'm a new president. Well, not a new president, but a new principal. And so we were both new and we were both learning. And she offered me the job. And to be quite honest, like I was so happy that I landed at that school as opposed to some of the other CPS schools that my friends had landed at, because the stories that I heard compared to where I was just like
Mhm.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I can
Mhm.
imagine. I had to get that one out. That was
Yeah.
you said I blacked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, like, you can never really prepare for interview, like, you never
Yeah.
know what you're going to get thrown at.
Right, right. I can only imagine. So now, throughout that journey, so this is the Overnight Success
Hmm.
podcast, right? So when we talk about overnight success, we want to let the youth know that nothing happens necessarily overnight, with in
Hmm.
the blink of an eye. What it happens is you working overnight on your goal. There are a lot of people that work 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9. Well, what was some of your overnight experience that led you to becoming successful? You're like, I'm working, I gotta work on this, I gotta build this, I gotta do that.
Yeah. So, just fast forward a little bit to I'm
Mhm.
teaching, it's about 12 years of being in the classroom. And then
Okay.
I'm deciding, like, okay, it's time to do something else. Like, I'm pretty
Mhm.
complacent. And I just know that there was this opportunity to get another. Well, I could have gotten a PhD, or I just could have gotten another master's to become an administrator, which is a school principal. So I
Mhm.
applied for Concordia University for their master's program in administration, and I got in, and
Mhm.
I'm into the program. And mind you, it's around COVID time, and things are looking a little bit different. We weren't really going into the classroom, and I've been out of like the classroom for about 12 years.
Yeah.
And I think like it was kind of difficult when you mentioned overnight, just doing
Yeah.
papers all over again, teaching myself how to do that. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to relearn all the things that I used to know, and technology has changed dramatically within 12 years. So just up late at night. At this time, I have two daughters, and I'm still working a full time job. So
Okay.
just writing, being expected to write these 12-page papers, sometimes 14-page papers, and just doing everything from the beginning. It's just been like overnight journeys, and just getting through them, just knowing like, okay, this is just what you have to do. You have no other, I don't want to say no other option, but no other time in the day, and just pushing through it. So those
Mm.
were some really, really rough nights.
Talk
Just getting
about
through.
resilient
Hmm.
perseverance. And that's something, right? Because you got
Yeah.
two daughters. I
Mm,
know
And at
that, right?
Yeah, and at the time, like I lived far from my school, and don't mention the traffic. So it took me, I had to pick up both of the kids and then drive like an hour and a half sometimes just in traffic, and then get them ready. And then when they were like sleep and down, like for the night, then that's when my night will begin. So
Wow. And
yeah,
that's
I'm
when
talking
some
about
people
two
try to,
years of this.
that
Yeah.
is something. I just gotta say,
Hmm.
wow, right? Wow, without words.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Right?
was a
Because
lot. Hmm.
who would have known, right? Like you said, you gotta go all day and then you gotta put in some extra work. But
Hmm.
what kept you motivated throughout that process?
I think it was more of the fact that when I worked at the charter schools, and I'm just seeing like some of the things that, and not even charter school, but some of the public schools, that
Hmm.
a lot of the teachers and the administrator, like some of the things that the students go through. And when I say go through,
Hmm.
just not being treated fairly, or not having equitable, experiences compared to like other schools, just seeing like some of the decisions that were made in the schools, and
Hmm.
just how a lot of people are just like bystanders, and they don't really help to make some of the most important decisions in the school and help the school like move upward. And just seeing that kind of just was like, okay, if I was an educator, I would help to do this. Or if I was an
Hmm.
administrator and I see struggling teachers, instead of telling them all the things that they aren't doing, I would, kind of uplift them and show them, like, give them resources to make themselves better, as opposed to making them more fearful, because ultimately, if you are in beat with like all the teachers and you guys are all on the same page, then it's going to help the school overall. So that kind of like helped motivate me, because I was put in like a school where a lot of the teachers didn't like it, and everyone wanted to leave. And a lot of the experiences that the students, had weren't so positive, and it was because of the administration. So
Wow.
I just always felt like if I was put into that predicament to be an administrator, then I would definitely make some changes. So,
Wow. So you saw the problem, you
mhm,
knew a solution, and you went
mhm,
for it. You answered the call, right?
yeah, mhm,
Wow. Now, after that, because here you are, you're going from being, you were in the classroom, now you're going into administration.
mhm,
And what was the big vision when you were transitioning in that space, right? So you were like, okay, well, this is my goal. I want
mhm.
to help the teachers. Like, what was the big goal?
I would just say the big goal was just thinking about, if I had the perfect school, or if I could make the perfect school, what would that look like? And I would often think about some of the complaints, and some of the complaints were just not having enough time to do stuff, or the
Mhm.
parents, or just the students and behavior. And I would think about, like, if I could change some of these things and just like have more voices being heard, then I would kind of use that as a catalyst to make some change, and just putting that more in the forefront, and just always keeping that, like, it's not about you going in there just changing everything. It's like how you can create, how you can have a whole team, and then making everyone's voice heard, so we can all work together to make a change. So I
Mhm.
hope that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, and it provides purpose, right? So
Hmm.
because once you see it, you position yourself to have a purpose-driven life. You were positioned right there because you
Hmm.
care and because you wanted to make a difference. And now, as you're
Hmm.
entering your space right now, what is the next 5 to 10 steps that you're going to take in your journey?
Well, definitely, because I work for Chicago Public Schools, I guess I would have to move into like a assistant principal role before I can become like an actual principal, if I decide to stay with the district. And I guess with that, just making sure that the teachers are prepared to give students like not only academic support but emotional support, because you go into these classrooms, a lot of students, they can't learn because some of the things that they're going through at home, or they just, like I said, I'm going to use this word a lot, they're not having equitable experiences, and because of that, they're not prepared to give their best in the classroom every day. So as an assistant principal, just like thinking about what can we do to support the teachers so that they can support the students. So
Right. Wow.
mhm,
And it's a difference, but you saw it throughout that journey. You saw it what it was like
mhm,
as a teacher.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and I
now
kind of
you
had a wake up call like a couple of years ago. One of my students, he had drew a picture, and it was of me, and I don't know what project we were working on, and I was like, "Why am I frowning in this picture?" And then he was like, "Cause you're mad," and I was like, "I'm not mad." He's like, "You're always mad." And I'm like, I'm always mad. I'm like, and I'm in my head, I'm thinking like, yeah, because you ain't sitting down, and listening. But I was thinking, he was like, well, teachers, they're always mad, and I was like, wow. So we definitely have to change the perspective if he's thinking that all his teachers are always mad, So
wow.
yeah, that really like struck a light bulb for me, because I was thinking, we don't really get to hear the student's perspective. You think as a teacher or as an administrator, like, oh, if it's the classroom is quiet or if it's calm, then the students, they're learning and everything's good. But they don't really
Hmm.
have a voice, like, what are we doing to make them, or to ensure like they're happy, or they know that they're loved. So just
Right.
seeing that was just like, I don't know, an eye opener.
That's something. It makes you think about the students, like you said, from the student's perspective, because
Hmm.
if you haven't been a student in a long time, especially, it's a new world that we're living
Yeah.
in.
Hmm.
It- So for the students to see you in that light, it definitely should wake not only us up, but everyone who's paying attention too.
Yeah.
Are there any books or anything that you're like, okay, man, these are some tools or some resources that others should check out that have encouraged you on your journey?
Um, I have a bunch. I'm a book nerd, so I love to read. I just like having books just to have them sometimes. But
Hmm.
there's some in the classroom, like The Power of Our Words. I really think that that's
Hmm.
important, and I think that's important because even in life, it just goes beyond the classroom. The things that you say can actually make or break an individual, and not
Hmm.
only in the sense of making or breaking an individual, but it has the power of like casting like what you do in your own life. So that's
Man,
a good one. Determine your mindset. That's also a good read. And I also
yeah.
think Black Chicago. That's the one I'm currently reading
Mm.
now. So I really like that one because it's just telling me about the history of Chicago, which is so rich, and it
Hmm.
kind of just like sets the foundation of like why Chicago is kind of like the way it is now. So yeah, I would
Hmm.
say those are my top three.
Now that's great, and I say that because reading is so important, and
Mhm.
I always say that when you're reading, you're soul searching. Someone has literally taken 40, if not more or less years. They've created a book, they've organized it, and they give it
Mhm.
to you just for $10, right? And you
Mhm.
get a chance to absorb that book their whole life. So you have
Mhm.
a new soul that you can put in your pocket and utilize whatever experience that they had. But
Mhm.
reading is so important because it allows you to not make those same mistakes that others have made. What's the best piece of advice that you've received throughout your journey that you can pinpoint?
Um, I would say the best piece of advice that I've received is success is just not like you do it and you got it done and you achieved it. It's just something that will just always be ongoing. It's not just one thing that just happens and then bam, I can stop now. It's just something
Yeah.
that's just constantly happening all over again and over again. So
Hmm.
I think that has been the best piece of advice because it helps you kind of be in the mindset that when you get to a certain goal, don't stop, keep
Yes.
going. And you may have achieved something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not other things that you need to tackle. So
Hmm.
success is ongoing, most
It
definitely.
is. And life is ever evolving. After high school is college. After college is
Mm-hmm.
career, right?
Yep.
And no matter what you build, you have to figure out legacy. So now you got to
Mm-hmm.
pass it down. And after you, it's still going. So
Exactly.
you were definitely on point with that. And when you think about it too, you mentioned that, okay, here you are now, you're entering a space where you're going to be a leader in education, but then also I know you had some other passions that you were interested in. How did
Yeah.
you navigate that?
Well, see, it's the time for me. I know, like, as teachers, we have the summer off, but then in the summer, you just want to relax. You don't think
Yeah.
about doing anything, extracurricular related. But I know that with my goals that I want to do, I really want to get into writing. And when I say writing, I really want to get into children's books and
Mhm.
more like historical fiction to kind of like give students knowledge about the history that we don't really expose them to in
Mhm.
school. And so much, in life it just gets just passed off and we
Mhm.
just I feel like in school we have to get through math, we have to get through reading, but some of the most
Mhm.
important things, like where we come from, that kind of those stories kind of don't get told. So I would
Mhm.
really like to write more books that are designed for students to kind of like know where they come from, depending upon their type of backgrounds. So
And
yeah.
that's the thing. When you get that seed inside you and you take action,
Hmm.
it's gonna make a difference in the kids' lives.
Yep.
And that's why I was planted inside of you. Now, we talked about your journey in various areas, but how big of a role did family play throughout that journey as you were navigating all of these different years?
Yeah, so parents have always been big at just helping me with my kids. Like if I'm
Mm.
have a late meeting or if I need them to be picked up, they're just always there. Always been great with that. Even like
Mm.
helping with homework. Nice that I'm not able to assist with that. And even like my brother and my sister, they've always been there, to help with those things. And I think having family is really important. And just because you can't do things by yourself. It's just like
Mhm.
impossible. So yeah, just having a good like foundation of family members. If you don't have family members, friends, it's really important.
Mm, mm. And leaving this life peacefully empty because you right now,
Hmm.
like you said, you've already had an amazing journey and you got an amazing
Hmm.
story, and
Yeah.
you're in an amazing position right now to make a bigger difference, a bigger impact as you continue to grow and lead
Yeah.
others. What legacy do you want to leave behind, not only in education, but
Hmm.
also as a entrepreneur if you go into this book space, right?
Yeah. I want to just, I really, I think when I think about it, when I think about the big picture, I really
Mhm.
want to like have something, a space or begin something where students, or not even students, kids can share their voices and their experience through writing, because that's something that I've always been passionate about. So with not only my stories or my books, I want to get other kids' stories out there, their writing, because
Mhm.
I feel like there's so much that they write in school, or there's so much that they can like create, and it just goes like it gets graded and it goes back in the mailbox. It might get kept in a box, or it might get thrown in the trash, but some of those pieces are really good. Like I had this one
Mhm.
student in my class, she wrote, I want to say like a 6-page essay on like her family, but my school's very diverse, and she wrote all about like where they come from, and then just different things about their culture, and it was just really nice to see it from her perspective. So yeah, just to
Mm.
get those their stories out and just be put into public. So just something like that.
Wow. And then now talk about legacy, because now you get to really impact a lot of lives. Is there
Hmm.
anything that you would like to leave, not only students, that you would
Hmm.
like to share with high school, college students, or parents that may be watching?
Yeah, I would definitely say that you should never give up on your goals, your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations, no matter what predicament that you're in, or no matter what type of situation like you're experiencing at that current moment. Because when you decide to
Mhm.
give up, nothing happens,
Yeah.
and with that, every success story always has challenges. And then also, like, when we wait for the right time to do something, sometimes nothing ever happens. Even for myself, when I'm tired, even if I just write a page or write 2 pages, it lets when you're doing something and you're constantly moving towards your goal, like
Yeah.
that is putting forth effort, and you're getting closer and closer to personal growth, and you are like on the path to success. So you're
Yeah.
taking one step closer just by moving. So don't ever give up, depending on what situation you're going through or what's happening. Just always keep the end goal in mind.
Wow, that's what I'm talking. That's part of it right there. Never give up. We
Yeah.
have those ideas, right? Turn them into goals, create that plan, take action, never give up. That's the
Yeah.
sweet spot right there, because it may take a lot, it may take longer than you thought. It
Yep.
may take 15, 20 years.
Hmm.
It
And
may take.
also with that, like, don't compare yourself to other people, because a lot of
Mhm.
times we see, oh, they are a lot further than me in life and I'm only
Yeah.
here. Because we all have our own journey to go through, and we're all on our own plan. So when we compare
Right.
ourselves to other people, it kind of takes away from our mission. So
Yeah.
always look at where you are, where you were, and just keep going. So I'll
Come
also
on.
say that too.
Come on. Keep going. Is there
Yeah.
now, how can someone get in contact with you if they wanted to say, you know what, reach out and say, it's great to meet you. Thank you for sharing your testimony.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm on Facebook, Lucy Ross, and then also I'm on LinkedIn under Lucinda
Mhm.
Ross, and
Mhm.
just email ross.lucinda@gmail. Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. And I'd be remiss if I don't share. Now, the reason why we're here, as we mentioned, is to empower and encourage high schoolers and college students to focus on success. And we created the Success Club. As you can see, Success Club and Success Club,
Mm-hmm.
just to help our students create their personal success plan. Because we know that, when you go to the bank to start get a business loan, you need a business plan. So
Mm-hmm.
in life, you need your success plan. And it's important for us to have it sooner than later. So if y'all need anything, definitely feel free to reach out to us. Go to
Mm-hmm.
McNultyInternational.com. We have a lot of amazing success books to help youth and adults create their personal success plan. But
Mm-hmm.
we're here for you. We want you to succeed, and we're going to continue to bring amazing individuals like Lucy, who has an amazing story. I'm telling you,
Mm-hmm.
Lucy, you, your story, because it shows that it's possible that you were working overnight.
Mm-hmm.
You navigate all these challenges. No matter what area in life, you still kept your eye on the target and let you know that there's more. And even right now, continuous improvement. So, thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you so much, Diamond, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, indeed. Well, I see y'all next time inside the boardroom.
All right. Thank you, everyone.